Hello and a warm welcome to Federal special program Capital Beat. Yesterday, a delegation of India Alliance leaders went to meet Election Commission over the controversy behind the special intensive revision of the electoral rolls. Much has been said about it that it's illogical, it's needless, and it seemingly has the objective of weeding out the genuine voters. But the yesterday's meeting, which happened, was dubbed as unfriendly and disappointing by the India Alliance leaders. Now, why did they say so? I'm joined by Dipankar Bhattacharya, who is the General Secretary of the CPIML. He was part of that delegation. Thank you so much, Dipankar, for joining. And I saw the press conference, which Abhishek Manu Singhvi and you all were there when you addressed the press, and you said that the meeting was very unfriendly and very, very disappointing. Why do you feel so? What happened actually in the meeting? I want to understand from you. Yes.
See, the only good thing about the meeting is that it happened. It's not an appointment. He gave us the time, and we were allowed to present our views, our concerns. But I think what we expected, the least that we expected from the Election Commission, that the Commission will acknowledge the genuine fears, worries, and grievances of the people. But we found that the Election Commission was completely smug. All that we said appeared to just fall on deaf ears. So the Election Commission didn't show anything. The Election Commission, all that we got from the Election Commission was a truism saying that no eligible voter will be left out. But the whole thing is about the whole determination of eligibility, the kind of eligibility test that the people have been now pushed into. Almost like 4.5 to 5 crore people. So 50 million people will have to pass this eligibility test, which is nothing other than a citizenship test. And the kind of documents that the Election Commission expects from the people, a good majority of Bihar people, they don't really have that kind of documents. So the Election Commission didn't at all care for this. So they still think that, okay, everything is fine and we can pull it off. So this, I think, was not at all expected from the Election Commission. And the other thing is, we asked the Election Commission, why did it suddenly embark on this kind of a drive just months before the election and going against the Election Commission's own declared policy that it will go by consultation? There was absolutely no consultation. So why there was this such utter lack of transparency? It was a kind of a shock therapy. And I told the Election Commissioner that this has reminded the people of Bihar of demonetization. And when demonetization was suddenly announced, there was a logic given that this is to take the black money holders off guard, that shock and awe kind of a thing. So why was the Election Commission undertaking something? Why this shock therapy? We got no answer from the Election Commission. So to be honest, to be fair, we didn't really get any answer from the Election Commission. And the only assurance that we got was just a truism that no eligible voter will be turned out. And the other thing is that people whose names are there on 23rd June 2025, they will get enumeration form. So the Election Commission just assured us that enumeration forms will be supplied to all those whose names were there on the voter list as on 23rd June 2025, just before the SIR was launched.
No, but what is the logic, Dipankar, when you say, and when Election Commission says that we are undergoing a special intensive revision of the electoral rolls? Do you find any logic behind it? Or do you feel that there's something spooky? Does it look like a conspiracy? Does it reek of, where a vote theft could happen through an exercise like this? Do you believe that there are fears like this as well?
See, the only extra point that we got is in the course of yesterday's discussion is Election Commission says that after Maharashtra, a lot of allegations came up. So this is probably the Election Commission's way of answering the Maharashtra allegations by putting the electorate of Bihar through this kind of a test. That's the only additional point which has not so far come up in any election commission circulars. But the other arguments given by the election commission, like migration, urbanization, demographic changes, uh, duplications. So these are all routine things, and the election voter list is something which is goes through continuous updating. So any summary revision or any normal kind of revision could have given us a correct electoral roll where no duplications would have been there. People who have expired, their names would be taken off the electoral roll. So these are routine things that could have happened even without this SIR. So the
No,
election
but
commission didn't really
yesterday,
care.
right. But
Yeah,
Dipankar, when
election
you
commission
question,
didn't really care to explain why this SIR and why this is SSIR. This is intensive revision, right? It is
absolutely.
not just a special intensive revision, it is a sudden special intensive revision. So they didn't explain the suddenness either.
Right. In fact, Abhishek Manu Singhvi was also heard saying that what is the logic behind having an SIR after 2003, after which you've already had 4 or 5 elections which have happened in
Exactly.
Bihar. So, were those elections held against the rules? So, what did the election commission say when these
Nothing.
questions were put to the election commission?
They didn't care to answer any of those questions. So
Hmm.
obviously, people are asking this question that if, as recently as in 2024, we had this Lok Sabha election, and if the Lok Sabha electoral roll was really flawed, then the verdict you get on the basis of a flawed electoral roll is also flawed. So if this is lacks in validity, this is invalid, then the outcome is also invalid. But the
True.
election commission doesn't bother to answer any of these questions.
I saw a lot of comments on the social media, Dipankar, that you people were made to wait for 1 or 2 hours, and apparently 1 or 2 representatives from each party were allowed. And even Abhishek Manu Singhvi said that what is the logic? And I've never heard such a pedantic approach, from the election commission that you only the party president or only 1 or 2 leaders are allowed by the party. Did you face these kind of problems also?
Yes, I mean, see, we thought that we had taken a collective appointment. So it was intimated to the election commission that all these parties, it's a multi-party delegation. Then we got a mail from election commission asking to confirm. Uh, I think all parties got this kind of a mail where the party and the election commission has done this thing. They have found some authorized representative. So I think this new election CEC, what he has done, he has prepared a list of the party presidents or party main leaders of all these parties and collected their email IDs and stuff. So basically, we got this email saying we got a request for an appointment. So did you make this request? And if who will be attending from your party? So we had confirmed. We had confirmed. So it may be that some of the parties didn't really get this mail or didn't receive this mail. So the election commission made a big issue of it. I don't think this was such a big issue. And we were 10 parties. The election commission also said two representatives per party. So which means that 20. And it so happened that many parties had only one representative, the DMK, the Samajwadi Party, the JMM, the NCP, Sharad Pawar, and Shiv Sena, Uddhav Thackeray, they all had only one. So easily, the Congress probably had some 4 or 5 leaders. So easily we could have accommodated all those leaders, but it was very, very unfortunate. And it didn't appear, it looked very bad that we have some 45 minutes were wasted in just sorting out this thing. How many people will be allowed? Who will be in? And senior leaders of the Congress, they had to wait outside. Jairam Ramesh and Pawan Khera, Akhilesh Singh. But we still thought that since for us the important thing was we had to convey our concerns about Bihar. So even though this didn't look at all nice, but we took it in our strides and we decided that we just registered our protest. And having registered our protest, we proceeded with the meeting.
But what is India Alliance
What is
now
the
planning
alliance
as
now?
far as Bihar is concerned, Bihar elections, because this SIR is in process, it has begun already. What will you do? What have you thought? Are you going to approach the courts? Because since Election Commission hasn't given you the required answers, and you all have said that the meeting was very unfriendly and disappointing, so which means that your questions have not been taken into cognizance, the questions have not been heard. So what is the next move?
I think the court is a possibility. I think we'll have to take a call. We'll be discussing this. But more importantly, I think there is still a massive information backlog. So a lot of people who are actually affected, let's say people who are outside of Bihar, for example, all the workers I come across in Delhi, they don't really know that something like this is going on in Bihar, and they are expected to go there and fill up the enumeration form. So first of all, I think Election Commission is definitely issuing circulars. They have their own administrative way of reaching out to people. But we have to reach out to the people. Number two, I think the concerns which you convey to the Election Commission, maybe the Commission thought, the Commission is trying to make a very fine distinction between BLAs and the party leadership. For example, one of the arguments given by the CEC yesterday was that the number of BLAs, there is a jump in the number of BLAs after the SIR has been launched, which shows that it is all fine because the BLAs on the ground, they are carrying it on. Now, the thing is, for example, in demonetization period, you remember, people were standing in the queue. So many people died standing in the queue. People suffered. So it was an ordeal which people suffered, but that didn't make the demonetization right. So about demonetization, the criticism or the critic that remains. So people, if what options do they have? The electorate of Bihar, if there suddenly something like this is inflicted on them, so they will have to go through the audience. So they will protest. They are definitely protesting. They are voicing their concern. But simply because the Election Commission has the power to subject the people to this kind of a completely unwarranted and fueling exercise, that doesn't prove the exercise to be correct. So this is what we told the Election Commission, that the people, they will, of course, they will protest. But at the same time, just as we protested and yet we carried on with the meeting. So people will protest. And I'm just hoping the Election Commission, maybe when we conveyed to the Election Commission didn't listen. But when the people of Bihar, when they start speaking up in the villages, in the urban areas, so probably when millions start speaking, I don't think the Election Commission can still turn a sort of deaf ear to them or blind eye to them. So the Election Commission will have to listen. So I'm just hoping, because the process has started, so the people will be protesting. We have a campaign underway. The people of Bihar, I told the Election Commissioner that they have given it a small name. For them, this is vote bandi, because the way it was announced, it
This is
reminded
what?
everybody of
I'm sorry, I didn't get you.
Vote
Vote
bandi.
bandi.
Like
Okay.
note bandi, like demonetization, this is some kind of
Vote bandi.
devoterization. And
Okay.
demonetization was note bandi in Hindi. So for the people of Bihar, this is vote bandi. So the
Okay. So
common
basically, this is
thing is
demonetization. Basically, SIR is nothing but the demonetization of the votes in Bihar.
exactly. I mean, this is a massive disenfranchisement. People are staring, massive disenfranchisement to the extent of maybe even 1.5 to 2 crore people. I mean, some 5 crore people will have to pass the eligibility test. And the kind of documents which are expected of them, many people don't really have any of those documents. And the other thing we expected from the Election Commission, because the Election Commission circular says some 11 identities are listed there. And the Commission says this is an indicative list. This is not an exhaustive list. And of the 11 items mentioned in that list, 2 probably do not apply in Bihar. Like the NRC, NRC has no relevance in Bihar. Probably there is something called a family register. And I'm told that that also doesn't really work in Bihar. So probably only 9 of those listed identity documents are relevant in the context of Bihar. But a good number of people have none of those documents. So the kind of documents that the people have, that was again another very intriguing thing for us, Aadhaar card. This government has been linking everything with Aadhaar. Now suddenly this time, Aadhaar is no longer valid in their eyes. ration card, it's not valid. The EPIC, the photo identity cards given by the Election Commission itself, they are no longer valid as identity cards. So the kind of identity proof that the people have, ration card, young generation, they have driving license. So driving license, ration card, EPIC, Aadhaar card, none of this will count. So the Election Commission is insisting on matriculation certificate, on residence proof, on birth certificate, and which actually it is not just an inconvenience for the voters. This, I think, goes against the very idea of universal adult franchise. Well, that was the beauty of it, that in many countries, people had to fight for decades for the women to get voting right. For in America, the black community, they got their voting right, I think, as late as 1960s. So here in India, with the attainment of freedom, when we adopted the constitution, at one go, everybody got this voting right. It was not that the Dalits don't get the voting right, Adivasis don't get the voting right, they will have to fight separately. There was no sequence at work. So everybody got at one go the voting right. But now, if you have to give your matriculation certificate, if you have to give your residence proof, so the Election Commission expects everybody to have a house, everybody to have a degree. So that means effectively you are truncating, you are limiting universal adult franchise to a select group of people. So these are really very strategic concerns about the future
Right.
of elections in India.
But from the people's perspective, of course, it's a huge problem because the people will be seemingly they will be disenfranchised. If they don't have documents, they have nowhere to go. Many of them are availing a lot of government schemes. They are benefiting from the government schemes. Now, what happens to that? Will they remain the beneficiaries or not? That is also a genuine concern which is coming from the field. But does it increase the trouble for the political parties as well? Now the onus lies on the political parties, and these are troubling times now for the opposition, actually.
See, this is again another intriguing question. See, for me, this is not a question meant for political parties because it affects every voter. So we are not looking at it through the lens of political parties or alliances or the opposition or the ruling parties. But I find it really, really strange that none of the NDA parties are saying anything. In fact, they are going out of their way to welcome it, support it, justify it. So I really have this question. For example, say the people of the oppressed rural poor, the Musahars, who have hardly any of these documents. So, do these parties, the NDA parties, do they feel that there is something that insulates them and their voters from the troubles that we are experiencing? It is not just we are apprehending; we have already started experiencing this whole trouble. So, I don't really know. Is there any such mechanism which will insulate Musahars voting for Jitendra Maji's party? They will be trouble free, and the trouble will only apply to Musahars who vote for the CPIML. I don't really know. So, but the way the NDA parties, this is something which is put Bihar in trouble. Every Bihari voter is in trouble. Recently Nitish Kumar had announced a land survey in Bihar. And I could see people who have got lands, landowning, they are not landless poor. They are landowning people, and they had such a big trouble. And Nitish Kumar had to slow it down, had to defer it, because people don't really have land records. Land has been distributed over generations within the family, but there is no proper legal record of that redistribution of the intra-family redistribution of land. So a lot of the people, it is going to inconvenience everybody. Even a lot of the people, they don't have their records. They don't have the birth certificate. They have lost their school certificate. So people will have to get all these certificates afresh. So I don't see, this is at least 80% of the people of Bihar, they will be put through massive inconvenience. And that should be a matter of concern for any political party in Bihar, whether you are a ruling party, you are an opposition party. So how is it that they like the votes? But if you are interested in the votes, you should also be interested in the voter and in the ordeal that the voters are having to go through. So the voters and their voting right, that should be a big concern for any political party. So how come it is not a concern for these parties? That is really astonishing.
I just want to reconfirm, Dipankar, again. You said that you might go to the court. So India Alliance is planning to go to the court against the special intensive revision of the electoral rules.
We'll have to take a call. We have to take a call. We haven't yet arrived at any decision, but I'm sure that is an option because we thought that we should first go to the election commission because it is the election commission which has issued the order. So we thought that we would get a response from the election commission. But now that the election commission uh, just appears completely not bothered about it at all, they have made up their mind. So obviously there are two courts that we can approach. One is the People's Court. So the people will have to make it very loud and clear. So we hope that when there is a loud voice of the people, um, hopefully the election commission will still heed that voice. The other is, of course, the court of law. So that is definitely an option. But when and how to do it, I think all the parties together will have to take a call.
My last question to you is that, I was speaking to a few election data scientists like Mr. Pyarelal Garg and Mr. Devasahayam, and they all thought that uh, in the previous elections, whether it was Maharashtra or Haryana or the Lok Sabha elections, people saw and they talked about the fact how Form 7 and Form 8 was misused, Form 17C was misused, the voter percentage was increased. Now, does this particular SIR look like a new methodology to uh, to appropriate the mandate in favor of the ruling party? Does it look like an exercise? Do you suspect that?
Definitely, this is probably looks like an attempt at producing some kind of a customized electoral roll. Because the electoral roll, which is generally, constructed in the country, all these 70 odd years that we have been having elections, this is the first time that an electoral roll is being constructed on the basis of some kind of a citizenship test. So the onus has been shifted from the state to the citizen, to the elector, to the voter. The voter will have to prove. Till the other day, it was if the election commission had any reasons to doubt, if there are any complaints against any voter, then they could always scrutinize. And that scrutiny is a constant process. But now, only 2003 voter list people, they are giving the benefit of kind of doubt. They are being presumed to be citizens of India. And anybody whose name is not there on the 2003 electoral roll, whether they are born before 87 or after 87, they have to pass this eligibility test. And this is something unprecedented. This is a complete departure for every previous election. And I'm not really sure whether the Election Commission has also even exceeded its brief. The Election Commission is there to administer the Representation of the People Act. And this deals with the Citizenship Act. So I don't really know if the Election Commission applied its mind and if they got the two mixed up, and whether we go to a court of law, I don't know how the court of law will respond. But definitely these are big questions, completely unprecedented. It's a new thing. And this is why I think it's not just Bihar, because it is just the beginning with Bihar. It is going to be applied everywhere. And the other thing which struck us, the Election Commission in the course of the discussion said that Bihar has always had very narrow victory margins. And then in the same breath, the CEC said, well, there are 20% of voters outside of Bihar. So I don't know if the meaning is that the voters who are basically working outside of Bihar, they should also be outside of the Bihar voter list. And if any, the 20% is a big number. So it's obviously, and the way more than what the Election Commission is doing, it is the intriguing silence and in total endorsement, enthusiastic endorsement of the SIR by the NDA parties, which makes us, little uneasy. That why the kind of thing that we can easily see, people can easily feel. So every party should feel about it and why they are endorsing it so enthusiastically. Whether they were taken on board, we know we have not been consulted. But was there any consultation which happened with the NDA parties? How come the NDA parties, they have one kind of opinion about it? So these are questions which I don't know, only time will answer. But these are really very, very troubling questions, very valid questions.
Right. Thank you so much, Dipankar, for joining on the Federal. Thank you very much.